but I was howling with tears, man. And then all of a sudden, I felt a blanket lift from me. Gosh, like I'm fully healed, my body's back to normal. So it was a bad thing at the moment. I had a very, very big line of cocaine on the desk. And I just remember looking at it, saying, no, Reen, you're not gonna take that. Nah, bro, God just delivered you. God just delivered you. I'm like, man, God, I don't get you, Lord. I'm still struggling with cocaine. I can't kick this. I'm still slipping. I'm fighting, I'm losing. But you delivered me from all these things. And then so, why would I send my son Jesus to die for you? Don't you know that I sent him to die for the worst of the worst? I sent him to die for Hitler. I sent him to die for Stalin. I sent him to die for the rapist, the pedophile, the murderer. I sent him to die for the worst of the worst. Because I love you that much.
Well, thank you for talking to us today.
Yes.
Ryan, question, how did you encounter God?
Okay. Well, how did I encounter God? So I actually have to take you back to like 3-5 years old, when I was about 3 or 5 years old. And because how I encountered, let me just take you back to when I was a child. About 3 or 5 years old, it starts off with my mother, and came from an abusive mom. Yeah, she broke my rib. She tried to put me up for adoption behind my dad's back. She got to such a point in her anger, or whatever it was, she got to a point though, she used to tell my dad she was scared she was gonna kill me. And so they went to court, and my dad, even before all this, my dad was like, well, why would you even try to put him up for adoption behind my back? Just give him to me. But of course, they still have to go through the court system and all that. So she never showed up. So she practically was a slam dunk for my father to go with my dad. And so, and I always have to say this first. I always have to give first a credit to the father. I'm always very thankful to him for this, because when I went with my dad, that's when I met my grandma. And she actually passed away on my birthday. And that's when I realized, after everything was all said and done, because you get good gifts on your birthday. You get gifts on your birthday. And this one I truly knew. I said, wow, Lord, you blessed me. My grandma was a gift. And I always get a little choked up about it, because I will always be grateful to him. We can never give him enough Thanksgiving to begin with. But, so I thank you, thank you, God, for my grandmother. But anyways, went from my mom to my dad, met my grandma. And then I grew up in the church as a child, but, I didn't understand these things. Didn't really have a discipleship, I don't think you could ever start them young enough. I think you could start them in the womb, start speaking Bible scriptures to the womb. But, so I grew up in church, but no one guided me and directed me. So, moving forward, in high school, when I was 17 years old, caught a criminal record, armed robbery and assault with deadly weapon. 7 years, 2 strikes. And that was pretty much the beginning of seeking God and desiring him. And that's where I met Joseph Hua. I know you did an interview with him and recorded his testimony. But that was special. And every time I recollect on these things, you just see how God moves. He's just an amazing God. Just praise to his name, truly, truly.
So tell us about the journey from the time that you moved and you lived with your father and your grandmother all the way up to high school. Take us to that phase of that stage of your life right there. What were you like then?
So I was reckless, wild. It was about street cred. I didn't have time for girls. I didn't have time for, definitely not school. I did a lot of ditching, a lot of smoking weed. Back then, back then, I'm not super old, but growing up, you know, in like the early O's, the early 2000s, there was a lot of Tupac, a lot of Bone Thugs and Harmony. So we were about that thug life and gang banging. And I had a lot of, the older homies were from the hood. I think if I had never gotten locked up, I believe I would have joined a gang, and I think I should be dead by now. But I just had that reckless, I don't care mentality. It's about the homies. And it was weird though, because I knew there was one church in particular though, where I remember seeing the Holy Ghost really, really move. And I was an 8th grader. It was in LA, it was called Glory International Foundation. Long story short with that, I remember going into the church, and it was very foreign. It's foreign for anyone who has never seen the Holy Ghost move. And so, you know, everyone was on the floor crying. I'm like, what the heck is going on here, dude? This is weird. But you could actually feel it too. And I know, I'm not talking about emotional. Well, you can even feel it emotionally too, but it's like, it was electric. You go in there, I just remember it was electric, and I felt the conviction, and I was like, man, like, I just feel, and it's not like anyone really took me through my sin or anything, but I can't really fully explain, but I just knew there was something off about me. And I think someone just said, yeah, people are just crying out to God, you know, just pray and cry with us. And I don't know what it is, dude. I didn't have the information or the understanding. And so I remember getting down on my knees in like 8th grade and crying and just weeping, because someone took me very briefly through it. I remember, it's a spotty remembrance, but I just remember, man, I'm guilty for something. So that's what that era, that timeline was from going with my dad as a child. Oh, and so this is one thing my grandma always told me too, and I'll give you more understanding as we get deeper into the testimony. But she always said, Reen, you're always like an angry child. You're always a very angry child. And as we get deeper in the testimony, but I'll say this, I didn't trust my family at all. I always knew my grandmother loved me though, but even then I was not able to receive. I couldn't receive her love. I was just terrified. Yeah. And so I always went to my friends more, because they showed a different aspect of caring, and they're always hitting me up and, you know, Ryan, where you at? Come kick it. So there was like this family, you know, but it was just a different variable, I guess, with friends, because with family, I've already been scarred and hurt. You would think you would trust your grandma, but I would just psychologically, emotionally, and simply said, I had my mom had already planted a seed of hatred and anger and bitterness in my heart. And it's true, I do remember breaking a lot of things when I was little. She always brought up like this lampshade I tore up when I was like 8 years old. I don't know why I did it, man. I really don't know. I was just destructive though. But so that's what pretty much that whole timeline was within, 5 years old to high school to 17 years old.
Did you think that your mom was the reason why you couldn't trust your grandma and your father, even though they love you so much?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I never, mothers are very, they're nurturing, and I never received that at all from my mom. Maybe there was one vivid memory I had of my mom that I still take to the bank with me today. And I remember we were just on the couch with each other. Yeah, and we were just snuggling. I think we were watching Rocky and Bullwinkle or something like that. That's a very old show. That for her time, but anyways. But yeah, it just scarred me. And my grandma always, and if I could comment on my tattoo, Beauty for Ashes. Yeah, most beautiful thing is love, and God is love. And I pretty much connected that with my grandma. It was just something to help me remember that, hey, she does love you, Rian, but I still never rooted myself in that understanding. It was, sorry, I'm getting a little track off. Let me get back to it. Yeah, she always gave me love, and I always gave her pain and suffering. Beauty for ashes, that's why it's a rose on fire. It was supposed to be symbolism, like, roses are beautiful, beauty for ashes, but yeah, so anyways, it was my mom who scarred me.
So that's why you couldn't receive the love from your dad and your grandmother?
Yeah, so as far as it went with my father, and this was one question I always used to ask myself, because he was present, but he wasn't really there. And he was for a moment, when I was younger, and I still take much of this blame, much of the responsibility for fragmenting these relationships. Because when I was a child, I was always ecstatic to see my dad come home from work. But as I got older, I kind of got more colder. I got more number towards my dad, and my dad was just there. He wasn't even really there, and it just became kind of weird and estranged for a very long time, up to like 5 years ago. Really, it wasn't until things were getting restored. But, I was the one who fragmented it, I believe. I take responsibility for that. So one of the things I used to ask, but I was the one causing this stuff. I was like, man, I don't it probably is worse to not have a dad, but it hurts just almost on another level. Having your dad, but then seeing him like not really caring and just being there. Because as a male, you still want a strong father figure, that could be just someone you gotta look to. But again, like I said, I take responsibility for fragmenting the relationship between him and I. But yeah, he had his own issues with his father too. So I think at a certain point, he just got enclosed he tried to be a friend. That didn't work either. Yeah. That was worse, actually. You don't want to be a friend to your kids, man. I believe you want to be a parent to your kids, man. Friends give the worst advice. I think some friends mean the best.
Like your friends, they probably meant the best, but probably gave you so many
bad advice. Yeah, absolutely. And my dad's role is trying to be like a father friend, was just let Rian do whatever he's gonna do. And he just, wasn't a strong father figure. Things are now getting reconciled from like 5 years ago, whatever. But yeah, you parents, be a parent. Discipline your child. Love them. Don't spare the rod. Sometimes you gotta discipline them if you love them. But we miss these things. So I don't know which camera. Just look here.
So high school, that's when the real issues, the real trouble comes into your life.
Yes. Yeah, so my criminal rec, however it all started, to touch on it, I was just simply trying to pay for my driver's license school, and I just wanted to drive my friends everywhere, and everyone was always tripping over like gas and stuff. Man, they'd be tripping super right now if they see the gas prices. But back then, it'd be like, oh, you got 5 on the gas, or this and that, or you're gonna smoke me out. And I was like, man, if I drive, and I was like, I just drive all the homies. But I didn't have the cash for paying my driver's education. So I came up with this brilliant idea. I was like, well, I'll just hit a quick lick. I'll just do a quick robbery. And I robbed a Boba Loca with my big homie. And it was so silly too, sister, because I did it like it was in a movie. I got the thing. I had a gun, a Deagle Colt 44. It was a full 45. Don't even matter now, but it was like a Magnum. It was a Deagle. And I remember I went in there, so ridiculous, dude. I had a red beanie. I pulled it on like I was Spider. Oh my God, you gotta laugh at these things sometimes. Like, thank God for his love and his grace, man. But let me tell you, sister, how I play it out. I go in there, I'm like, this is a robbery. Like a straight up movie, dude. And then, so the dude puts the cash. It's like 300, not even 300, barely 300 in the bag. But I'm just seeing everyone like shooketh, like King James version. Everyone was scared. And I'm like, dang, what's the next move, Rian? So watching too many robbery movies, I got on the counter. And my next move was I was gonna take everyone's wallets. Yeah. But the one thing, the clerk, see, I didn't clip the gun, cause I was and I really think by the grace of God, man, something just told me, take the clip out of the deagle before you rob this place. Yeah, and even too, sister, like I remember even before entering the place in the back door. Something was like, tell me, bro, this is not a good idea. And I never felt such retching guts, stomach turning ever in my life to this day, ever. I don't think that was ever supposed to happen, man. Yeah, I mean, because I just remember and I was contemplating, man, feels really bad. And to this day, I'll never forget that gut wrench. I'm not sure if I was supposed to go to prison. Who knows what would have happened? I mean, I think I would have been a gangbanger, but either way, I go in and then, rob, I take the money. And anyways, getting back to the counter. So I didn't clip the gun because I think things would have escalated and I would have shot somebody, man. I would have killed and shot somebody. I may not even be here till today. Yeah, I had the gun like this, but then I put it down for a second like that. And I believe the employee saw that it didn't have a clip. And so he reached for the bag. And I was like, oh, this guy. Started cursing in my mind. And I jumped on him. And I was like, bam, bam, bam. Gave him like 8 stitches or something on his head. He finally knocked out. I took off with the big homie and didn't get no cash, didn't get nothing. And so the next day, here's the weird, crazy part. So the clerk that I gun whipped, his best friend was at the Boboloka. And I scoped out the Boboloka before I robbed it. So he already kind of put 2 and 2 together, but it just happened to be his best friend that I beat up. And so the cops showed up at my house. And yeah, man, I pretty much got scared and started confessing things at a certain point because I thought I was gonna get a little less time. And so they took me in, and they already had enough on me. And then went to juvenile hall for a few months. Long story short, what they did was they tried me as an adult, direct filed me. So I was 17 and they tried me as an adult. I took a deal, 7 years, 2 strikes, a violent case. Violent cases always are in California, must always be 85% of the time you must serve. And so getting to the prison part, that's where I really started meeting, started seeking and desiring God, right? But it's kind of interesting how everything's play out in prison. That's where I met Joseph Fa, good man, missionary. But at that time, quite the Pharisee at times. And I followed Joe, man. I followed Joe, and this is all in the past. Mind whoever's watching this. We all make mistakes, man. We all gotta grow. And just want to say, Joe's been, man, he still apologizes to me today. But this is how it all played out. Yeah. I actually prayed for Joe. I was like, yeah, I heard about this Joe was like the Christian of the Christians in prison, man. Everyone knew about Joe. If you saw Joe, like, oh yeah, that's that Christian guy, Joe, right there. And I was trying to get back into God and everything. I was like, man, Lord, I messed up coming here and this and that. And, you know, I think me see what's up with this. And I remember praying for like, all right, God, you know, show me what's up. I pray for this man to, because I didn't have a cellmate at the time. I pray for this man, Lord, may he be my cellmate. I like 3 days, within that week, Joe showed up at my door. The CEO was like, yeah, you got a cellie coming. I was like, I do? I look out the window and it's Joseph Hall. I was like, what? I was like, okay. All right, God, I see you. That was pretty amazing. But Joe taught me a lot, man. He was a big part of teaching me things of the word. He does, I don't know if you know who Ray Comfort is, but yeah, he brought a lot of Ray Comfort to me. And I was learning about Ray, and I actually got convicted by overhearing Joe's, because he'd be evangelizing. One thing that him and I can take to the bank in prison was like, that planted a good seed. The one seed was evangelism. Like we went out there and used to evangelize. But I remember he was talking to somebody, another inmate, and I was just like under the side, just listening, kind of ear hustling. And he was like, you know, have you ever stolen anything? And I was like, I'm hearing the other guys like, yeah. He's like, okay, what does that make you? And the inmate's just like, a thief. He's like, okay. Have you ever looked at a woman with lust in your hearts? And then the inmate's like, yeah. And as the inmate is answering these things to Joe, I'm also answering. I was like, oh my gosh, that makes me a thief, an adulterer. Oh my gosh, I don't know how many people I've hated and called. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a murderer. And then, so as Joe's evangelizing to someone on the side, I'm also getting convicted and answering these questions in my mind. And that's where everything began, really. Like everything started growing. But we still, and Joe was tried, man. Joe tried. He was trying to help us, but we just didn't. We were legalistic, to say the least. Very legalistic, and man, you can't like. I wasn't even. I thought that was how it was supposed to be done. I didn't know like a relationship with God was important, or how much He loved me. I just knew this dude died for me or my sins, and I should do this because of 1 + 1 = 2. And it's not even anything like that. And it was so hard in prison, dude. I remember, and I tried to make Joe like so proud of me, man. Cause Joe was the guy. He was like, man, he didn't watch TV. He didn't have a TV. He didn't listen to secular music. He didn't even listen to censored music. But, you know, and I was a cellmate. But part of it too was because I felt judgy. I felt him judging me in the cell too. I was like, well, I'm watching like I don't know, man, watching some violent. If I'm just watching a violent movie that I shouldn't be, but just feel Joe just like criticizing me. I was like, oh man, I could feel his voice. But so, you know, I wanted to get closer to God and I wanted to appease my brother at the same time. So I threw everything away. I threw my TV away. I threw my CD player away. I threw all my music. Just everything. And everyone was tripping out. Like, dang, Reen threw all that away for God? I was like, yeah, I did. Sister, I was miserable after 3 months. I got everything back. We were allowed to have a game system because we were out of state. So I bought everything back for 3 months, and oh boy, it was so embarrassing. You can see some people like rejoicing in my demise because like, yeah, we knew he couldn't do it, you know, and I could feel disappointment from Joe. I'm like, oh my goodness, Lord. And so I was never recognized. I didn't have this relationship with God. And then it was even getting so important too as well, because like Joe was like hitting me hard with the Bible. But he taught me a lot of disciplines that I carry now. But you want to have all that stuff in a relationship with God first, man. in an experience is so important. Which, encounter, sister. And so what ends up happening actually is that towards like my 4th year in prison down, and I'm like, dude, and also this is how it actually happened. I remember it. Oh my gosh, I had a lot of zeal. I had plenty of zeal. And I remember in the middle of the day room, I was just like, praise Jesus, God is good. I was saying that out loud. The whole dorm heard me. And because I forgot what it was, but God did something, he did something good, man. I just rejoiced. And I just remember the inmates kind of smiling like, praise Jesus. But then when I got in the cell, man, because I did have these ups and downs, but I was still figuring it out. But the main thing was I didn't have a relationship. But I get in the cell, right? And then Joe, he's like, man, you gotta stop doing that, man. You gotta stop doing that. I was like, why, Joe? Like, dang, you just like, was just hitting me hard. He's like, man, one day you're like this, the one day you're like that. I'm like, oh, Joe, bro, like, I'm sorry. I just wanted to rejoice. I don't care. I gotta sing, shout some rejoice to my Lord. I don't care who knows. God must be glorified. And then so it just came to this point, like a week later, I was like, man, all right. And I was like, and because it's like, I couldn't pray 1,000 hours like Joe wanted. I feel like I'm blaming Joe. I'm totally not. But I thought, because I thought it was this way too. I couldn't read my Bible at certain times, and I was condemning myself as well. I was like, and so I just came to this conclusion. I was like, God, I'm so sorry, Lord, but this is hard. God, how did people do this? How did people pray for so long or whatever, or read their Bible every day, or like, how did they just live as a follower for you? This is too hard, God. And like, I'm trying and I can't do this. So I didn't depart from the faith, but I walked away from it. And I just said, God, I'm sorry, Lord. I can't do this, God. This is too hard, Lord. I don't like, I'm not disclaiming you, Lord, but just I can't, Lord. I'm sorry. Please have mercy. I got to take a break from you. I'm sorry, God. And so, yeah, man, for like the last 3 years of my term, I wasn't a quote unquote Christian. I was just doing worldly things. And then I got out in 2014, kind of started getting back into my walk with God, because I just started seeing how empty the world to me kind of was thing. So I started slowly getting back into Christ again. So now it gets extra heavy in spiritual warfare, like, because I got out in 2014 and I was trying to seek God again. But 2016, that's when I started getting heavy into like drugs, cocaine and Xanax. And from 2016, even up into 2000, so I don't remember when the first interview was, but for 2020?
2022 this year.
22 this year? Dang! Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, from 2016 to 2000 it was the end of 2021 is when I had my encounter and the revelation of God's love for me. So to get into that,
so from 2014 to 2021, you were living in the world. You were doing the worldly thing, drugs and whatnot.
Yes.
So when did you actually born again, like truly born again?
The end of 2021. Okay. Yeah, that's when the encounter happened. 2016 to 2021.
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. Yep. And so, yeah, this is where it gets quirky and kooky but this is what it is. This is the truth. And So I was trying to get into acting during this whole time. Since I got out, actually, I've been trying to pursue acting. And then 2016 started getting into drugs because it helped me I actually started seeing how dull the world was too, before drugs. But drugs are actually like kind of helping me to see color more, temporarily, man, temporarily. And so trying to get into acting, and I gotta lay this down first because this is gonna lead to the next deeper part of the testimony. But I had this crazy, intense, deep infatuation with the Joker. To give you a little background on that, Heath Ledger, the urban legend behind Heath Ledger was he overdosed. He was taking drugs, prescription drugs, because he got so entrenched, so immersed into the character of the Joker. I truly believe what killed him was the spirit of death or suicide, and just took on the figment of the Joker. I think the Joker itself, to me, now I'm not saying acting itself is demonic, but I think you gotta be careful with certain roles, and the other thing too that Heath Ledger was doing was called method acting, where you become this character. Like, dude,
character actor. He's a character actor.
Yes, yeah. And so he would live the Joker, breathe the Joker, eat and think. He locked himself in his room for 3 months, just doing Joker things. 3 months, and that's literally something that I did too. In 2021, I remember looking at the time at one point. I'd come out for like bathroom breaks in a span of 3 months and pick up drugs. But yeah, so I was trying to get into acting, and I was also writing a movie script. So I don't think I mentioned these other details in the first one. But I was actually writing a movie script. I thought that's pretty unique story. It was based on Heath Ledger and the Joker. My whole script was like, I'm gonna play the Joker and I'm gonna play myself. And the idea was, well, what if like the Joker was this real figment? What if is it his imagination, or is he really the Joker? And so as I was writing this script, these things were actually happening too in real life. It was a trip. Like overdosing. So yeah, I'll get to all of that in just a bit. I gotta lay down this Joker thing. But my whole infatuation with the Joker to begin with was because I thought he was invincible, man. He didn't care for anything. He wanted to see the world burn. And from stemming at this young age as a child, because Satan he'll start when you're a baby. He'll start when you're in the womb. Generational curses, generational demons. These things are very real. So I had a seed of anger and hate in my heart. It was already blooming and growing. And with the drugs, of course, weren't helping. So I had this intense infatuation with the Joker. I was like, I am the Joker. I'm going to be the Joker. And so I would I even dressed up like the Joker a couple times, man. A few times. And I actually went out in public as the Joker, man, to do this method acting. And I remember like my cousins were tripping. It's kind of funny now, but I remember my cousin's girlfriend was like, Kevin, is he okay? Like she was telling me, oh my gosh, like you're scaring me. I actually had to break character at one point because I remember I was at a gas station and a cop came in and he started looking at me. And then I was like, okay, I can't do that. I want to go back to prison. Yeah, method acting. Yeah. But let me give you an example of how bad it really was. So there'll be plenty of times where I'll pick up a couple 8 balls of cocaine and I'll start getting into the role of the Joker. It'll be like 3 p.m. I'll start at like 3 p.m. And throughout the entire day, trying to get into like the Joker mind, I'll just walk around, not even speaking, but doing like weird contortions and things with my face. Like, I can't do it now. Maybe if I really tried, but I don't even exactly. I don't even want to try. Thank you. And I'll look at the time. And so basically what I'm saying is I'll go into this very weird, I would just go into a trance and I'll look at the time and I'll be like, oh my gosh, it's almost 10 a.m. for about 10, 15, whatever the X amount of time was, this X amount of hours, all I've been doing was pacing back and forth, making things with my face, and I'll snap out of the trance because like I'll be out of cocaine or it just it takes a break or whatever. I don't know, man. But yeah, I'll go in these weird trances, man. And then
was that when you met Christ?
This
in
is
the darkest moments.
Sorry?
In the darkest moments.
Yeah. Christ came in my darkest moments. Wow, that's deep, sister. I didn't even really reflect on that. He comes in he comes in the darkest moments. That's really amazing. I just wanted to think on that for a second. That's amazing. Comes in our darkest moments. So then there's another time too when it started getting really bad because I actually got attacked by demons. Straight up attacked by demons. Really attacked.
Did you open doors for them?
Yes, you do. Yeah. And I was up for like 3-4 days. Long story short, I remember I still have the audio too, man. I remember listening to the audio. You could hear it. You can hear the voice in the background. But anyways, I remember I was talking to my friend and I said, sorry, I was leaving like a voice message. But I remember, we speak in tongues. There's also demonic tongues. Satan, he just literally does the opposite of God and worse and bad and shabby and I remember I was like, dude, what the heck? I was hearing this demonic, it sounded demonic and it sounded like tongues too. I'm looking out my window, I'm like, what the heck is that noise? What's going on? I remember seeing like an elf too. If everyone watches World of Warcraft, it looked like a night elf. Or from like Legolas, kind of like Legolas almost from Lord of the Rings. But anyways, it was refracting in and out of reality. I was like, dude, I know I just didn't see that right now. Yeah, and then so, I even try to distract myself. You do such weird things when you're on drugs, man. But I used to think I was like a producer. I used to make beats. Good grief, man. Oh my gosh, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go on my phone and make beats right now because I ain't trying to hear these voices. Sister, every instrumental on this beat making app was all distorted. I was like, what the heck? I was just using this thing 10, 30 minutes ago and it's all weird. So I put that down and all of a sudden I start seeing things rush behind the TV or there's a dark tint when the TV's off. I'm seeing things rush past it and I can feel the atmosphere. You just feel, all I can say is if you could feel hate, if you could feel something that doesn't like you, I think some of us have at some point. You can feel sometimes when a person doesn't like you. I think there's a demon behind that as well too, you can feel. So I started feeling that. Anyways, long story short, yeah, they were grabbing my arm, trying to bite me on the neck. And I was trying to test this theory. I was like, dude, I must be tripping. Is this psychosis? I'm not sure if I could say psychosis exists. I think all of it's demonic. I think all of it's spiritual. In my opinion, I know there's science and stuff, but I'm just speaking from my experience. Maybe there is psychosis. I'm not saying there's not things with the brain, but I think so much of this is spiritual, dude, so much. So even the animals were tripping out. And I remember I was trying to call Pastor Steve. It was so weird though too, because my phone was even tripping out at a certain point. It wasn't letting me call Pastor Steve. It was just weird. And I remember I brought my cat out to he started tripping out. He was hiding under the chair and just looking at things. And then all of a sudden, by the grace of God, my cousin calls me back. And he was actually a new Christian, a new blooded Christian. So he's, happy for Jesus and just, new Christians and they got that fresh zeal. But I was like, Kevin, man. So I forgot how the whole ordeal happened, but he ended up calling me back. I have no idea. I guess I called him, it didn't work. And then I just happened to look at my phone. He was calling me. I was like, oh my gosh, thank God, Kevin's calling. I was like, Kevin, look, And he knew I was always drugged out and I was struggling with these things. Let me throw this in there. John Ramirez delivered me twice, but this was after. So let me just touch on that real quick. Real deliverance, the demons get cast out of you, but you still need to be rooted in the word. You need to have a relationship with God. That's real deliverance. Or else you're going to fall back into these things. And it says in scripture, you clean it out for them and they come back with their bigger homies, with the strong. Yes, exactly, sister. And that's what was happening to me. So yeah, he knew, he knows about like my deliverances. So he wasn't too crazy when I was telling him what was going on, but I still said, Kevin, look, I need you to bear with me. But look, I've been up for 3 or 4 days. I lost count, but I'm being attacked by demons right now. I need you to repeat, because I tried to like rebuke the demons, and I don't know if it was because I was like so deep in sin, or I even felt like a mocking atmosphere around me when I was trying to rebuke them. Or like my spirituality was so, whatever it was, it just was not working for me. And I needed someone with authority or better standings. I don't know. I can't say exactly, but I said, Kevin, look, I need you to just repeat these things after me. I need you to believe. I need you to believe and say it with authority. And it was like, in the name, I had him on speakerphone. I was like, in the name of Jesus, I command you to leave Rian alone. I was like, just like putting the phone all over the place. And he was like half asleep too. He was like, in the name of Jesus, I command you to leave. And so this is gonna sound a little funny. I mean, it's funny when you look at it now, but like the cat actually got possessed. I really believe that. It's just funny how this is gonna play out, but the cat got possessed. And I was like, the cat, like, he started looking like angry, and he's usually very timid. He's always timid. He's always relaxed. And I, during that moment too, was a little shook. He's a little scared. So, but all of a sudden, he looked aggressive, and he was coming at me with aggression. I was like, oh my gosh, Kevin, the cat's possessed. The cat's possessed. So I was like pushing the cat away. I was like, in the name of Jesus, command the spirit to get out. Tell him, Kevin. And then the cat like was tripping out a little. And then I believe the spirit left the cat, because they can possess animals. And so he went back to normal. And I was just like, okay, thank you, Kevin. So the following weeks after that, and this is all happening in 2020. It's just a buildup of falling, trying to get right, and falling again, and number one, never fully pursued the Lord with intention. So that's I kept falling back, and a lot of it was spiritual.
Fully surrender.
Yes, never. I always had this little piece. Sorry, spit. Little. I always had this little piece on the back of my mind that kept saying. I think there was demons still attached to me as well, but kept saying, "No, it's okay. You can. One more time, Marian. One more time." And also, yes, too. Never fully surrendered. Never fully surrendered, and so. Then following weeks after that, I think John Ramirez delivered me. That was the second time John Ramirez delivered me. And I actually did say, like, I wasn't fully surrendered, but man, I just kept going back even after that. And it just invites them, dude, and it just makes things worse. And I didn't have a real church community around me. There was just lacking so many things, man. I was putting myself in bondage in my mind. So anyways, the following weeks after that, I should have overdosed and I should have died for sure. And I was sitting on my bed, was up for like another 2 days or whatever. I just lose count after losing so many days. But basically, I felt my brain expand. I felt pins and needles in my arm. My legs were growing numb. My heart was palpitating. And you just know, I can't. But because I've been close to overdosing before several times. and it's never reached this level. But and I was like, oh wow, this is the tipping point, Ryan. You're gonna overdose and you're gonna die. And you just know, man. You just know, like you're moments away from death. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, this is your fault, bro. You have nothing to. It's just your fault, man. You had all those chances, and you kept falling, and so I started praying to God, and I said, Lord, it was just, I don't remember word for word, basically just said, Lord, well, I've never tried to mock you or deceive you. God's not mocked. He cannot be deceived. He knows the truth. Lord, I never tried to hide things from you. I know I was always in sin, this and that. And Lord, I think even if I died today, I might even go to hell. But because I know you're holy, I know you're righteous. One thing I didn't understand until later on was grace and all this other stuff. But even before all that, I said, Lord, even if you decide to send me to hell, I'm not going to argue with you, God. You're good, you're just, you're holy. And I do deserve to go to hell. I remember saying all these things to God. I was like, Lord, I used to be a man of tears because of your love and what you did for me. And I'm just like fading away into the shadows and, just going to become dust and just. But Lord, one thing I do know, I've heard, but I never really known too much about it. I know you're merciful, but Lord, I just don't know how merciful you are really. But, whatever you decide, Lord, I can't argue against you. But like, Lord, just how merciful are you though, Lord? And the one thing that got me started is I forgot like how to pray basically. I was trying to pray, but it was just so foreign and estranged at that point. And so the best thing I could come up with was sing a song. It was Jesus, Lover of My Soul. Because the one thing that got me in those lyrics is, my closest friend, lover of my soul. And it actually brought me to tears. I was like, man, that's right, because Jesus is a friend of sinners, thank God. He really is. And I started tearing up. And got to this point where I was just like bawling, howling with tears for like, I don't even know how long, like 15 minutes at least. Surprised the neighbors didn't hear. And I just heard the small still voice say, Rian, yeah, you get on your knees and cry out to me. And I was like, man, God, I don't know, Lord, if I do that, I think I'm really gonna die. Because I had no blood circulation. I remember as I was like singing, I was like, trying to turn my body in different ways because everything was just like, oh, this hurts, you're gonna die in that area, or like, oh, this hurts, and like trying to find positions to sing and pray in a comfort because it's just like, I think if I stay into one area too long, I'm gonna drop dead. And that's why I was scared. But I believe that was just God like testing the faith or something, man. I think so. Yeah. Why would he tell me to do that if he didn't, he wanted me to trust him. So, but I kept saying, God, if I do this, I think I'm gonna die on my knees. I'm gonna die on my knees if I do this, Lord. But because by the grace of God, I did it. I was like, Lord, I just remember telling God, like, God, Lord, when I do this, if I do die on my knees, Lord, please, Father, just know that I tried. Just know that I tried. So I got on my knees and talks about Jeremiah, how he howled with tears. And that's literally what I was doing, man, for another 15 minutes or whatever the time. It was long, man. And as I said, I'm surprised the neighbors didn't hear. My dad wasn't home. He was gone for like 2 days or something. If anything, he would have came home to a dead son. But I was howling with tears, man. And then all of a sudden, 15, whatever it was, man, I felt a blanket lift from me, an invisible blanket. I was like, what? It was so, I felt it. I'll never forget that moment either. I felt that blanket lift, at which I believe it was the spirit of death. I believe it was the spirit of death that was on me. an angel came and told him to get out. And I got up, and at the same time too, my entire body was healed and was back to normal. It was stabilized. I was like, first I was tripping on the invisible blanket, the spirit of death. And then I started tripping out. I was like, my gosh, like I'm fully healed. My body's back to normal. But the bad thing, I mean, this wasn't even really a bad thing because it's all glory to God. But in my eyes, this was a bad thing at the moment. I had a very, very big line of cocaine on the desk. And I just remember looking at it and like saying, no, Rian, you're not going to take that. Nah, bro, God just delivered you. God just delivered you. And like, I'm looking at it, I'm eyeballing it, and then I'm like, nah. I get closer and closer, and like, man, I start crying 2 steps by the desk because I know I'm about to take it. And I'm like, nah, Rian, don't. You're gonna die if you take this. You just got delivered right then and there. You just got delivered. I end up taking it, and I start crying again. And I was like, God, I can't do this, Lord. I don't have the strength. I don't have the power. No matter how much I tried, Lord, I didn't have the power, Lord, and I'm sorry. And I know he spoke this into my heart, and he said, you know, Rian, as if I didn't know you were going to take that line of cocaine. You know, first of all, it's called grace. Secondly, and this is probably the most important above all, is that I need you to proclaim this victory in my name. I need you to proclaim this. I'm going to win this battle for you. I'm going to win this war for you by me. I do need you to fight, though. You got to put up a good fight as best as you can, but you are going to lose a lot. But it doesn't matter because this is my victory. This is my victory, and you will win this by me. And I just remember, like, and it was a trip. That sat in my heart. It resonated. I was like, okay, all right, Lord. I proclaim this victory in your name. This is God's victory. Man, I never did so much cocaine in my life after that, sister. I never did so much cocaine after that. And I'm trying to figure all this. I was like, God, I'm trying, I'm losing. I know I'm gonna lose this bad. And so the next week after that, I tried to commit suicide. Because I was like, this just ain't happening. And so this is where it gets more weird and spiritual, and because my mind is so fragmented. I tried to commit suicide, and the plan was to take 40 Xanax pills. But while I'm doing, and so to add this in there, I was still writing the script, and I'm still trying to be the Joker, mind you. Because I'm still thinking, well, like, what am I going to do after I get saved? I was like, oh, well, I could probably still write this script and be the Joker and play the Joker and play me. And so, like, it was just inviting more spirits into me, man. And so this is the weird part. I'm like having a conversation basically between me and the Joker. I'm talking just like this. And then I'm talking to the Joker voice in another hand, having a conversation. And I was really definitely trying to egg myself on to kill myself. And and this is the other thing too. It's 100% it was spiritual, because I never felt that much hatred for myself. I never felt that much. I just hated myself so much on such a level. I couldn't believe. I recall it just. And I know there was just a spirit of hate and suicide. And so I'm trying to egg myself on to kill myself, talking to the Joker voice. So this deliverance was a little more subtle. But I'm still trying to install time, because I'm like, man, Rian, if you do this, you're probably definitely going to hell. But I'm still trying to like stall time, and so one voice I'm saying, no, God's gonna deliver you. God's gonna deliver you. No, God's got you, and you're gonna get delivered. And then literally in the next few seconds, I'm talking to the Joker voice, like, and I'm actually blaspheming God and cursing God at the same time. And so I was like, oh, Rian, I'm just like confusion in my mind. I was like, man, well, let me just see how many. If I was really gonna do it, I'll just down the whole bottle. But I was trying to buy time. I remember looking up on Google how many pills exactly does it take to kill yourself with Xanax? But like, it's just amazing how God just directs everything. Because I actually came across a page on Reddit full of drug addicts, and it softened my heart so much. You know, just a bunch of just hopeless, broken people, drug addicts or not. But it was a drug addict page, and they were saying like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make it tomorrow. I have no hope. My family hates me. I don't know if I'm gonna survive this. And I'm just reading comment after comment, and it's just softening my heart, and it's just breaking me more and more. And that's when something hit me. I was like, hey, you know, Lord, actually, if I can get through this, I can actually be a light in the darkness. I can share my testimony to these people. But actually, even beyond all that, Lord, to any broken person, to the least and the lost, excuse me, may I be a light in the darkness and the salt of the earth. And then the spirit just left. It was that subtle. And that's when my mindset started changing. And then so Satan took one more shot at me on Christmas. And it was October, November, it was the end of November. And Christmas was rolling up. And so, still drugged out. I think I was up for like one day that time. And I just remember I was like, God, I don't see this victory. I don't know what your plan is, Lord. I don't get it, Lord. I can't understand this. I'm seeing my family just all very happy, my cousins celebrating, just joy all around me. I'm just sitting there dejected. I'm like, man, God, I don't get you, Lord. I'm still struggling with cocaine. I can't kick this. I'm still slipping. I'm fighting, I'm losing. But you delivered me from all these things. And then so I go to my car, say a little prayer. And this was the biggest revelation I had. You know, he spoke it into my heart, and he just said, look, because I kept saying like, Lord, I'm not worthy. You know, thoughts of suicide were creeping in, my own flesh messing with my mind. But, you know, it was simple as this. And he just said, you know, Rian, first of all, you are worthy. You are precious. You know, why would I send my son Jesus to die for you? Don't you know that I sent him to die for the worst of the worst? I sent him to die for Hitler. I sent him to die for Stalin. I sent him to die for the rapist, the pedophile, the murderer. I sent him to die for the worst of the worst. Because I love you that much. Now, not everyone's gonna receive it, but I want you to know that, you know, it's not my will that everyone perish, that you are worthy. So if I sent him to die for you, how much more for you? I sent him to die for everyone. And just that revelation, like, oh my gosh, like, wow, Jesus, you really do love me that much? And it clicked. And I was like, dang, all right, you got me, God. And I got out of the car and got on my knees. I was like, Jesus, I'm yours. I did slip a few more times after that, but it was still more of a mind thing though at that point. And Joe, this is the beauty of it. Joe started taking me through scripture, and revelation was hitting my mind. And that was the other difference, sisters. I was saying that's the deliverance though, because they leave. And there's even, I think, like a grace period where you will slip, but you have to be ministered to, and you got to start getting rooted and grounded. And Joe was getting me rooted and grounded, man. Praise God, and thank you for Joe, man. But yeah, I was just seeing his love all throughout the Bible. And that's when like my relationship started happening with God. And it was just all happening. And I was being far more, and so like, if I may add this real quick, you know, all relationships are intentional. It takes intent, which I never really had with God before. And I thought that it was just him pursuing me though. You know what I mean? So I thought I had a relationship, but it was just him pursuing me. But like when I started seeing all these things, and started getting more understanding. I was like, oh, and when I was being intentional with him and my relationship with him, that's when things started skyrocketing. And that's and the other thing too is because you want to fall more and more and more and more in love with God, right? And that's why I'm very big, like start with your relationship with Christ, because once that's established, because you can be and then you go out and you serve him, because you want to be effective in the kingdom, people, because you can be in love with Jesus but be useless still, but the more you fall in love with Jesus, because I didn't understand these things in prison. This is what I lacked. I never had these revelations, these encounters, these understandings. And now, I'm so in love with him, and I'm falling more and more in love with him. And it compels me to be a servant and to be more effective, and, to see with the eyes of Jesus and feel his heart and feel his thoughts and his mind. And so those are two things, falling in love with Jesus and being useful to him in the kingdom. And so that is pretty much it.
So when did you truly fall in love with Jesus? That truly fully surrender everything to him and let him drive your path?
Yeah, it was
2020 or 2021?
End of 2021. Yeah, end of 2021. Yeah. Yeah, when we did the first one, I was fresh off of the all that stuff, fresh off of that stuff. Yeah, but ever since then, I've just been growing, like I said, having an intentional relationship with him. One of my favorite verses is Jeremiah 31, 33. 33. But I have drawn you in with my everlasting loving kindness. So once he draws us in, we gotta be intentional with with all relationships, or else we're gonna go nowhere if we don't. So, but yeah, end of 2021, yeah, December 25th. Yeah.
Christmas Day?
Christmas Day. God be giving me good gifts, man. My grandma on my birthday and a new established relationship on Christmas, man. God is good like that.
So when you look back, the born again Rian now versus Rian 2 years ago or 10 years ago, what do you thank God for?
Oh man. So born again Rian now compared to 2 years ago?
Or 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Woo!
What do you thank him when you spend that quality time with him, when you have that intimacy?
Yeah. Man, that's a hard pinpoint, but I could really say it's his grace, man. And along with his love, cause sister, I could never. That's why too, like I like just acknowledging him, because it's a trip that if there is no God, there is no us. That God is love, and that if God didn't exist, there would be no love. And so that's it's just so, I can't even pinpoint it. I'll never understand it. All I can do is say thank you and gratitude, and Lord, how else may I serve you? Help me to be an effective servant. But just thank you for your pursuit of love for me and for those around me. I can't, I don't. Indescribable, sister, truly.
Yeah. What is your, last question, what is your message you want to share with those youngsters out there are struggling what you went through for so long? What's your message to those young brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I would say to the young brothers and sisters, it starts with a relationship with God. And if it wasn't by his grace, sorry, was it runny nose from the tears earlier. Well, I wasn't crying this time. I cried way more the first one. You know, you come off fresh, those things, man, it stays with you. But yeah, to the younger ones, to love, and to Derek Prince. We love Derek Prince, man. It was a big one. It's a decision to love. That means if you think someone's got like the spirit of annoyance, you still gotta love them, man. It's a decision to love, and it's a progressive love. But have yourself established with the Lord, and it's gonna take time. You'll make mistakes. That's what the grace of God is for. Really capture what the heartbeat of Jesus Christ was. You know, by all means, that doesn't mean to just, you know, just gotta add this. Always gotta add this, because doesn't mean because we have grace to go out and sin or whatnot. You gotta. A lot of this stuff is supernatural too, man. But you know, that doesn't mean it's a past. You know, but have yourself established in the Lord, in a relationship. Thanksgiving will I think help a lot, because it's helped me a lot. I thank him for everything. We can give him a billion thank yous and it'll never be enough. But the more thankful you are and gratitude, because I know how tattered the world looks, but the more thankful you are, you see the beauty around you, the beauty of the Creator, and everything's, it'll help your relationship, you know, like, wow, Lord, you know, thank you for food, thank you for life itself, because you are, I am, and so establish yourself with the Lord, and he will establish you. So